Hey, and welcome to the next arena. So the arena I'm gonna talk about this video is called Bone Pit, and it's the second arena. And as it says there, Bone Pit, there's a lot of skeleton cards in this arena. And as in the other videos, I'm still gonna rate, of course, each card 1 to 5, where 5 is the best and 1 is the worst, and 3 is pretty balanced, pretty in the middle. So I'm gonna just go in and start with the first card of the 6 cards in this arena. We're gonna start with the 2 first common cards, and the very first one is the skeletons. So the skeletons are 3 skeletons for 1 elixir. Yes, and I would say you get what you pay for. They're like not very good, but they are very useful in one type of deck, which is a cycle deck, where you quickly want to cycle through your cards. So I would say they pretty much only fit into one specific kind of deck, and their win rate is not super good. They're just like the worst 1 cost card as well. I would rate them as 2. This one is kind of hard, 2, maybe 1. It just doesn't feel like, unless you really know you're gonna play a cycle deck, there's just so much better cards that cost a little bit more but does so much more. As I said, it really feels like you get what you pay for. A 1 cost elixir card shouldn't be like super strong, but it just feels like maybe 1 skeleton more or something would make it more balanced. I don't know, but yeah, the skeletons I would stay clear of unless play with a circle deck. Yeah. So the next card is the Bombur, the skeleton Bombur, and the skeleton Bombur has recently been buffed a few months ago with its HP pool. It's still not super popular, but it feels to me that it's a lot better, a lot more balanced, and has a pretty good win rate as well. It's not, hardly anyone uses it, especially at higher level, but I actually don't know why, since the win rate is pretty decent on them, and it just feels like it can be used in some situation. And also, since the Valkyrie AoE radius was recently nerfed, it just seems like the Bombur is a pretty good alternative to the Valkyrie. Also because the Valkyrie, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Valkyrie very soon, but it's such a popular card, so therefore the Bombur, it just feels to me like it's underrated. I would give it 3 out of 5. So at this moment, I feel like it's not super good, it's not super bad. It just feel like it hit where it should be, and seems pretty balanced. So proceeding from the common cards to the rare cards. The first rare card is the Tombstone. So the Tombstone is a building that costs 3 elixir and spawns skeletons. The Tombstone is one of the highest win rate cards of them all, even though it got nerfed at some point. So when it dies, only 3 skeleton comes instead of 4. It still has such a high win rate, and the thing about this card, which is super good, is it's not very level dependent. So it's actually very viable, even though it's like level 9 and you're playing against people with level 13 cards or so. It still fits really well and does what it's supposed to do. Super solid cards, and as I said, super high win rates. I would get this at least 4. Very strong card, a very good defensive building that I would highly recommend. From the Tombstone, the second card that I also talked a little bit about earlier in this video is the Valkyrie. So the Valkyrie, super tanky, AOI damage. She was recently reworked, kind of like it wasn't a nerf, but they made her ranged a little bit smaller, and I felt like she was one of the strongest card before, Now she seems a lot more balanced. She still has a pretty good or decent win rate at least, and she still works and fits into many decks, which makes this card very good. But she's a very popular card, and now I feel like there are some cards, for example the Dark Prince and so, that just feels a little bit better. She seems a lot more balanced now after the rework or semi-nerf or whatever we're gonna call it. So I would give her a 3. Could argue, and I understand if people argue if she's a 4, but I would say because of the statistics and my experience with her before and after the recent nerf, that she is a 3 now. Moving on to the epic cards is the Witch. The Witch targets both air and ground, of course, and spawns periodically skeletons to help her out. She's a really popular card as well, has a pretty decent win rate, not super, not bad. The thing about the Witch, I think actually she's kind of a high skill cap, because she counters a lot of things and is very good in a push behind something. So definitely a useful card, and some people might think she's pretty strong. I think she's pretty balanced, and the statistics also shows that she is pretty balanced. So I would definitely give her a 3 out of 5. She used to be like a year ago insane, but then they nerfed her attack rate, and she, to me, just experience with the card and the statistic as well, as I already said, she seems very balanced. So good job from Supercell balancing her. And let's move on to the very last card, which is the Giant Skeleton, which costs 6, and it's like the least tanky of the tanky cards. But when the Giant Skeleton dies, there's a bomb that does so much damage. It's actually, even though it does so much tower damage, it feels like it's a very good defensive card. If the opponent spams a lot, like for example 10 elixir in one lane, you can just put the giant skeleton down, it dies, and the bomb pretty much just explodes everything. I don't feel like it's a super good card. I don't feel like it's a bad card either. It seems like it has its role, and its mediocre win rate makes it a 3 solid card to use, and but it's a little bit hard to use well, I think so. So those were all the 6 cards in the second arena. And as you can see, some pretty good cards to pick, like the Tombstone, but in general, a arena where most of the cards are pretty well balanced.